Gemini, you will be the main topic in an important place. Be careful with your appearance. Gemini, something rare is unfolding. In the next few days, you will step into a moment that shifts how others see you and how you see yourself. You won't chase the spotlight. It will find you. You won't ask for attention. It will quietly, powerfully turn toward you. What's coming is not about fame, applause, or vanity. It's about resonance, energy, presence. You're about to walk into a space where every word you speak, every gesture you make, carries more weight than you realize. You are becoming the silent center of an important conversation. And here's what you must understand. You're not being seen by accident. Someone of influence, possibly more than one person, has noticed something in you. A spark, a pattern, a frequency that feels essential, magnetic, or maybe even mysterious. They've been observing, quietly, carefully. Now their attention deepens, and with it, an invisible test. But Gemini, this is not a moment to perform. It's a moment to be fully, authentically, unapologetically. Because those who are watching are not seeking perfection, they're seeking substance. And no one carries layered complexity and soulful clarity quite like you do. Before we begin, take a moment to breathe into your own energy. You don't have to become anything. You only have to remember who you already are. If this message speaks to your spirit, feel free to like, share, or subscribe to continue walking this path together. Because here at Esoteric Wisdom, we don't just watch the stars, we listen to them. Gate 1. The room where eyes find you first. Gemini, you've always danced effortlessly through spaces, quick to adapt, fluent in the languages of curiosity and wit, able to read a room before most have even entered. But what happens when the room reads you first? When your energy precedes your voice, and your presence begins shaping the dynamics around you, before you've said a single word. This is what's happening now. You are becoming the main subject in an environment that matters deeply. Not because you're demanding attention, but because you've become undeniable. Your quiet decisions, your subtle shifts in tone, your ability to weave clarity into chaos, these haven't gone unnoticed. There is someone in a position of influence who has been silently observing you, watching how you handle tension, how you respond when challenged, how your words affect the temperature of a room. This isn't paranoia, it's recognition. And yet, not all recognition feels good. Some of the attention you're receiving is laced with admiration, some with envy, some with quiet calculation. That's the paradox of visibility. You become a mirror, reflecting back to others what they fear, love, or lack in themselves. The question isn't whether people are watching, it's whether you can remain grounded while they do. Let me give you a story. A client of mine, a Gemini named Theo, worked in a mid-level tech role. Analytical, sharp, not loud, but effective. During a leadership transition, he noticed his name kept surfacing in meetings he wasn't attending. One day, he was asked to lead a presentation, not for his own team, but for executives. He hadn't prepared. But his presence alone, the way he explained things simply, the way he didn't rush, the way he didn't pretend to know everything, shifted something. 2 weeks later, he was offered a position he'd never even applied for. "You made us feel like we could trust you," one director said. That Gemini is what this energy is about. There's a fine line now between being seen and being scanned. The people who are watching you aren't looking for entertainment. They're watching for signs. Can you hold tension without cracking? Can you assert yourself without arrogance? Can you express your truth without dismissing theirs? They're not testing your knowledge, they are measuring your energy. And Gemini, you have something rare. You can speak with both sides of a story in mind. You can absorb complexity without being overwhelmed by it. But your greatest gift and your greatest challenge is your ability to adapt. In this moment, that gift must be used consciously. Because if you shift too quickly, you'll be seen as inconsistent. If you please too many people, you'll be called inauthentic. If you remain too neutral, they'll wonder if you believe in anything at all. So what's required now is presence. The kind that doesn't flinch when questioned. The kind that doesn't overshare to fill silence. The kind that lets a pause breathe because you are not afraid of being watched, You are aware of being witnessed. Pay close attention in the coming days to who enters the room after you do, who lingers after you speak, who quotes your words in meetings, or repeats your ideas without attribution. These are signs. Not all of them are threatening, but all of them are revealing. You may even find yourself at the center of a decision you didn't initiate, invited into rooms you didn't think you were qualified to be in. That's not a mistake. That's alignment catching up with you. And yes, your appearance matters here, not as a costume, but as a signal. How you present yourself sends a message before your voice does. Dress with intentionality, not vanity. Let your image reflect your integrity. Let your posture speak confidence, not defense. You are in a liminal space now, a threshold. What you do here will ripple far beyond what you can see. So the next time you feel the room quiet as you enter, don't shrink. Don't apologize. Just breathe.
And be.
Because when the eyes find you first, it's not because you've done something wrong. It's because you're finally walking in alignment with something incredibly right. Gate 2. The goodbye that happens before words. There are goodbyes we prepare for, packing boxes, final conversations, closure rituals, and then there are the ones that leave without warning. No ceremony, no announcement, just a quiet shift in energy. A space that used to feel alive suddenly doesn't. Gemini, this gate is about the latter, about the loss you felt before you could name it, about something ending silently around you, even while life on the surface continues unchanged. You may have noticed a friend growing distant, a colleague becoming colder, a rhythm that once felt familiar now feels forced. Maybe no one said the words, "It's over," but the atmosphere changed. The invitation stopped. The warmth faded. And you, Gemini, so quick with words, so gifted in navigating nuance, have felt suspended in confusion. Did you do something wrong? Were you imagining it? Or is this just another phase? It's not your imagination. Something is completing. But here's the truth you haven't told anyone yet. You saw it coming. You just didn't want to believe it. Because part of you hoped that by staying adaptable, agreeable, or supportive enough, the ending could be delayed or rewritten. This is your Gemini heart, always wanting to understand both sides, always hoping to negotiate truth into something softer. But endings don't negotiate. They arrive with purpose. They remove what no longer aligns with your future, even when you're not emotionally ready to release it. That's what's happening now. This invisible departure is not a punishment. It's a release. And the grief you feel, whether it's loud or quietly gnawing at the edges of your joy, is valid,
Real.
sacred. Let me tell you about a woman named Eliza, another Gemini who once sat across from me during a quiet spring session. She had just lost a mentor, not to death, but to silence. They had worked together for years. Suddenly, her ideas weren't acknowledged. Her emails went unanswered. She watched as someone else was invited into projects they used to co-create. There had been no confrontation, no falling out, just absence. Eliza blamed herself. She rehearsed every conversation, wondering what she could have done differently. Maybe I should have been more assertive, she said, or less. That's the Gemini tug-of-war, the deep ache of being both too much and not enough at the same time. I looked at her gently and said, "What if this is not about your failure, but your evolution?" Sometimes people release us not because we're wrong, but because they're not ready for the version of us we're becoming. Sometimes you outgrow roles before the people around you realize it. And sometimes the universe needs silence to make space for new assignments to enter. If someone has quietly removed themselves from your orbit, resist the urge to chase or explain. The departure is doing work that your intellect cannot calculate yet. Gemini, this is where you must learn to honor unspoken endings. You've been conditioned to believe that closure must be mutual. But not all chapters close with a final page. Some end mid-sentence. And your task is not to edit them into something smoother, but to trust that what ends quietly is just as meaningful as what ends dramatically. The energy doesn't lie. You felt it shift. That's enough. There is also something deeper unfolding here. A hidden evaluation, one you may not even be aware of. You are being watched not in the dramatic sense, but in a subtle one. People are observing how you respond to disconnection. Do you spiral into people-pleasing? Do you retaliate with silence of your own? Or do you hold your center and let them walk without malice? This gate is not about punishment. It's about proof. Proof to the universe that you are no longer addicted to validation. That you can endure misunderstanding without losing yourself. That you can sit with grief without needing to narrate it to make it make sense. Gemini, you are now in a sacred initiation. The kind that comes without fanfare. You are learning that losing access to someone is not the same as losing your value. You are discovering that your essence is not diminished just because someone else no longer sees it. And perhaps you're realizing that you no longer want to be understood by those who only love the light parts of you. What's emerging is clarity. You will soon find that the room you once wanted to be invited into is no longer the room your soul resonates with. You will find that what once felt like rejection was actually redirection. The people who step back now are making space for connections more aligned, more mutual, and more reverent of your growth. You may also receive something tangible in the weeks ahead, an email, a conversation, or an unexpected opportunity that confirms where intuition already knew. The ending wasn't about lack. It was about expansion. The silence was clearing the way. The goodbye was opening a door. So, Gemini, don't grieve your becoming. Let the absence become your teacher. Let the space where they stood become the soil where something higher can root. And let your response to this ending be your quiet revolution. Not to chase, not to defend, but to rise in stillness, strong, whole, and sovereign. Gate 3. The mirror of soul-level connection. Gemini, you are entering a phase where connection is no longer casual. Where surface attraction loses its flavor. Where small talk tastes hollow, and only soul-deep dialogue can satisfy your hunger for meaning. The people who once thrilled you with wit and charm may now feel like static. And those who were once strangers may suddenly speak words that feel familiar, ancient even. This is not coincidence. You are stepping into a time of divine mirroring, where the universe uses human faces to reflect hidden truths back to you. Not all of these reflections will be romantic. Some will come as teachers, some as challengers, and a few rare ones as soulmates. But understand this, a soulmate is not just someone you love. It's someone who awakens you, someone whose presence stirs a remembrance in your spirit, as if you've met before in a place beyond this time. There's a reason this is happening now. After the silent endings of Gate 2, the universe is preparing to send you someone, or perhaps reveal someone already around you, who sees beneath your quicksilver mind. Someone who doesn't fall in love with your potential, but with your presence. Someone who doesn't try to fix or flatter you, but rather feels you. This person may not arrive in the package you expected. They may not speak your language fluently, or share your background, or tick all your logical boxes. But you will feel something. Not intensity, not adrenaline. Something gentler, deeper. A kind of inner quiet, as if your nervous system exhales in their presence. Let me tell you a true story. A Gemini woman I once guided, named Mira, was brilliant. A teacher, a writer, a social butterfly. She had many admirers, but few lovers who understood her depth. She came to me, frustrated. "Why does no one see me?" she asked. She wasn't lonely in the literal sense. She was often surrounded by people, but she felt emotionally alone. Her connections were witty, but not rooted. "I feel like I'm performing all the time," she said. I gently invited her to stop performing. And weeks later, someone entered her life, not glamorous, not intellectually flashy, but grounded, present. This man didn't try to dazzle her, he listened. He asked thoughtful questions. He remembered details she thought no one noticed. It wasn't fireworks, it was a slow-burning flame. And one day, as they sat quietly at a cafe, she said to me afterward, "I didn't feel like I had to sparkle. I just existed, and it felt sacred." That's soul connection, Gemini. When you don't have to shift, adjust, or entertain. When your multidimensionality is not only tolerated, it's revered. You've spent much of your life shape-shifting to make others comfortable, laughing when you're uncertain, teaching when you're yearning to be held. But now, you are being called into a connection where nothing has to be curated. You are invited to put the performance down, to let someone hold the whole of you, the brilliant ideas and the sacred silences, the laughter and the fears. This kind of intimacy can feel unsettling. It asks you to stay, to receive, to be seen in your contradictions, without editing them into coherence. That's the risk and the reward. But be mindful, Gemini, this is also a time of tests. Not everyone who enters your orbit is meant to stay. Some arrive to show you the difference between attention and attunement, between chemistry and compatibility. The universe may send you a karmic echo before it sends you a soul companion.
Why?
To ask you this question, will you choose what is familiar or what is true? Look at your patterns. Who do you keep attracting? Do they mirror your curiosity or your chaos? Do they feed your spirit or just your mind? You, Gemini, are often drawn to stimulation. But now, you must be drawn to safety, to stillness, to truth. And here's a sign. When this person speaks, your mind will quiet, your breath will deepen, your heart may not race, but your soul will remember. And you may wonder, how do I know if I've met them? The answer is simple. You will feel whole in their presence, not because they complete you, but because they reflect the parts of you you've tried to hide. They will not confuse your duality for contradiction. They will recognize it as depth. They will not shrink when you speak your truth. They will lean in. This person, be they friend, mentor, lover, will help you unlock a new version of yourself. One that isn't filtered through expectation or strategy. One that simply is. They may not stay forever, but they will leave an imprint on your timelines so deep, it shifts your spiritual DNA. So when they appear, Gemini, don't rush. Don't analyze the connection to death. Let it unfold. Let it teach. Let it mirror you back to yourself. Not the version you show the world, but the one who's been waiting, quietly, patiently, to be loved as is. You are not too much. You are not too scattered. You are not too curious for your own good. You are, in fact, the perfect storm of intellect and intuition, of logic and love. And someone is about to see that, not because you tried to show them, but because you finally stopped hiding it. Gate 4, the sacred pressure of visibility. Gemini, have you ever walked into a room and felt the air shift? Not because of what you wore or what you said, but because your presence alone made people pause, observe, adjust? If this sounds familiar, it's because you are entering a season of spiritual visibility. The spotlight is not just on you. It's within you, radiating from your essence, and calling forth the eyes of those who sense something rare. And with that visibility comes sacred pressure. This is not ordinary attention. It's not applause nor fame. It is the spiritual weight of being watched by destiny. Right now, you may be moving through spaces, your workplace, family circles, social gatherings, where conversations fall quiet when you enter, where your ideas, once overlooked, are suddenly being evaluated, where someone who never acknowledged you is now measuring your words with great interest. It feels subtle but heavy, and you're not imagining it. What you say, how you act, even the moments when you say nothing at all, it's all being noticed. And here's the paradox. Gemini, the sign of duality, adaptability, and motion, is now being asked to stand still, to own their space, not shift, not adjust, not charm, just be. And this may feel foreign to you, because for much of your life, your brilliance has been your flexibility, your gift for reading the room, adapting your tone, navigating social dynamics with grace. But now the room is reading you. They're trying to understand who you really are when no mask is present.
Why?
Because someone in a position of quiet authority has been observing you, not critically, but intentionally. They've seen something in you, a pattern of integrity or inconsistency, a spark of leadership or hesitation. This person may not have power in the traditional sense. They may not wear a title or sit in a high seat. But their opinion carries weight in the environment that matters to you most right now. And here's the spiritual truth. How you carry yourself in the next few weeks could alter the trajectory of your path. Let me tell you a story. A Gemini man named Theo once told me about a moment when he felt suddenly, inexplicably examined. He worked in tech, a creative, witty mind often behind the scenes. One day, he was asked to present in a meeting unexpectedly. Normally, he would default to humor, brush it off. But that day, he took a breath, spoke simply, honestly,
Authentically.
what he didn't know was that the director of the entire division was silently sitting in. She later pulled him aside and said, "I've been watching you. That was the first time I saw you, not just your role. And that's who we've been looking for." That moment changed his life, not because he tried to perform, but because he chose to show up fully. Gemini, you are now in that moment, or rather a series of them. Moments when your reactions under pressure are revealing your core, and not just to others but to yourself. Who are you when you don't know you're being observed? Who are you when your default habits, pleasing, performing, are no longer rewarded? This is your divine refinement, and it comes with heat, because pressure always does. You may be misunderstood. You may be tested in subtle, even unfair ways. You may feel exposed, vulnerable, like walking on sacred glass. But this is not to break you. It is to form you. The sacred pressure of visibility is revealing the diamond beneath your adaptable layers. And here's the deepest truth. You are not being tested so you can pass or fail. You are being revealed so you can rise. Not by becoming someone new, but by no longer hiding who you already are. But that requires boundaries. You must choose authenticity over approval. You must say no when silence would be more socially convenient. You must share your truth even when it might cause discomfort. You must resist the urge to blend in when your soul came here to stand out. Gemini, this is not the time to be liked by everyone. It is the time to be known by the few who truly matter. And in the process, some people may walk away. Some may judge. Some may misread your stillness for pride, or your clarity for stubbornness. Let them. You are not here to manage their perception. You are here to anchor your truth. This sacred pressure is preparing you for your next elevation. Because visibility is not about vanity. It is about vesselhood. The more you are seen, the more you must be clear on what you represent. And you, dear Gemini, are being called to represent something higher now. Truth without cruelty, presence without ego, intelligence without manipulation. This is your spiritual coming out. No spotlight is ever accidental. No stage is ever random. If eyes are on you now, it is because you have something they need to see, not perform, but embody. So when that moment comes, when you walk into a room and feel the gaze of destiny, take a breath. Drop your shoulders, raise your head, and be the version of you that no longer flinches at attention. Be the version of you that knows. This moment is not about proving worth. It is about remembering it. Conclusion. You were always the message. You've walked through each gate, Gemini, not as someone seeking a new identity, but as someone courageously returning to the truth of who you are. And now, as you stand at the threshold of what's to come, I want you to pause,
To breathe.
and to remember this. You were never preparing to perform. You were preparing to be revealed. You've released the noise of outdated roles. You've faced the quiet ache of loss. You've opened yourself to soul-level connection. And you've withstood the pressure of sacred visibility. And through it all, one truth has remained. You are not here to impress. You are here to impact. Everything you need already lives within you. The presence that draws attention, the intuition that discerns truth, the grace that calms chaos. All of it, Gemini, is part of your divine wiring. And now the universe is orchestrating moments, encounters, even delays, not to frustrate you, but to position you, to place you where your essence can do what it was born to do. Light up dark spaces with understanding, curiosity, and calm brilliance. This moment is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming undeniable in who you've always been. A communicator of truth, a bridge between hearts, a sacred mirror for those who have forgotten their own light. So when the eyes find you, and they will, stand tall. Let your voice carry the quiet authority of someone who has done the inner work. Let your words ripple with integrity. Let your silence, when chosen, Speak louder than performance. And if doubt ever whispers again, remember, you are chosen to be seen. Not because you are perfect, but because you are real. Because the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs presence. If this message found you, it's no accident. It's a soul-level invitation to rise, to anchor, and to remember that you, Gemini, are the message. If this journey touched something within you, share your reflection in the comments. Your story may be the light someone else needs. And if you feel called like this video, subscribe to Esoteric Wisdom and stay close to our community. There is more to come. The next chapter isn't being written for you. It's being written through you. And it begins now.